In this part of our tutorial, we're going to start looking at the main body of the gun that you can see here. And what we're going to do is we're not going to try and tackle this all in one go because it's too large a piece of metal to work with. What we're going to do is we're going to just zoom in here and we're going to concentrate on this area that you can see here in front of you, just round there. We'll do this section afterwards, then we'll worry about the magazine, and then we'll worry about this section with the trigger and obviously the stock, which doesn't exist, and how we're going to decide what the stock looks like later. But for the moment, and in this session, we're going to concentrate just on this area here. So I'm first of all going to begin by creating a line, and I'm going to make sure that my creation type, my initial type, and my drag type is set to corner. And I'm really just going to sort of start off by saying one click. If I keep my finger on the shift key, I can constrain my movement to an X or a Y axis, which is always quite helpful. We're just literally going to go around. I'm not going to worry about the chamfer that's here because we're going to put that chamfer in a minute. So we'll start off like this. And you can really put in as much or as little detail as you want at this stage. So there we go. Again, I'm not, as much as I want to be accurate, I'm not going to be precious about it. So you can see here we've got a nice shape to start building on. Now I mentioned earlier on, just a moment ago, there was a little bit of a radius in there. And what we're going to do is we'll just come in here, we'll select that vertex, and I'll pull that up. As I go through my tools, you'll notice fillet. Now incidentally, as you move up and down through these, this can become quite wearing, sort of scrolling up and down these menus constantly. It can be a real fag. What I suggest you do is keeping your finger on the control key. When you've got the icon as a hand, as you drag up and down, it will accelerate the movement of the menu. Really simple, really easy. So what I'm going to do here is just add a fillet in. Is that going to let me do that? Should do. There we go. Just a small one, 3 centimeters. And I've got set up here on my modifier list. I've got an extrude, and the way you set these up is just quite simply come to your configure modifier sets, configure sets, and you can add extra buttons on. And then as soon as you found something that you like the look of, so say for example, I sometimes use the 3x3 box, you just click it, drag, drop on the button, press OK, and there you go. That's come up in the modifier sets. So that's all nice and easy. I'll just turn that off. There we go. So what I now have to do is to move that sort of roughly into position and then create an extrude. So what we can do is we know how thick the barrel of the gun is. You can see that here. So the body of the gun should be fractionally thicker than that. So if I move it out, and you can see this here, it's just outside of where the gun is. So I move the amount on the extrude modifier, you can see that I can just control that position there just quite nicely. And yeah, I think that'll be absolutely fine. What we've got there, that'll do me. And I'll right click on that and convert it to an editable polygon. And obviously by doing so, that allows me to have access to all the tools I need. So I'll open up my materials editor and I'll just apply a blank material to that. So we've got a nice simple material. And what I'll start doing now is I'll start looking at where we're going to put our cut lines in for this. Now, this isn't going to be massively easy to do, to be honest with you, because we've got an end on here. And what we want to do is we want to put one line in there and then another line in there. And we've kind of really got some choices to make here. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll start by selecting that polygon edge and come on, that polygon edge. Let's just zoom out here. And what we want to do is we want to put in, where am I, F2? There we go. I want to put these lines in whilst causing as little damage as possible to the rest of the mesh, which is of course going to be slightly difficult. We've got a quick slice and a cut. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to perform a cut to start with, and we will see where that leaves us with the rest of our points. Well, that's not bad. That's not bad. It's not affected our other side there, unfortunately. So what I'm going to have to do is maybe do the other side a little bit blind, which obviously isn't ideal. But if I right click and isolate this, we can maybe make our life a little bit easier. And we're going to do that by just putting a cut in here. And we're going to try and make that as parallel as possible. There we go. I think that's not even vaguely parallel, is it? Goodness me, look at that. Okay, well look, we can get around this real easy. I'll select both of those vertices. Coming down our tools with our make planar on Z. Oh, on Y even. So these 2 points are now level. And all I need to do is to make sure that they are a little bit higher here so that this cut line is flat. And I now have a starting point for that line, which is always helpful. So that's that bit of help done for us. So that when I come along this side, I know where that point is. Now, the only other problem I have is I need to know where this point is. So what I might have to do is we'll see about changing this view to be a back view and see how that works. No, that's not really going to work, is it? Okay, so let's go back to that being the front view. So we're really going to have to do this by guesswork, unfortunately. Which is not ideal, obviously. So let's just have another look. It's going to there, isn't it? And there we go. Okay. Now, I'm not convinced that that's the right way of going about things, but what I can do is by using the viewport here and by using my manipulator, I've got a pretty good idea that that's actually sitting on top of the one on this side. So that's good. That works for me. That was nice and I won't say nice and easy, but it was easier than I thought it was going to be. And what I'll do now is I'll just create a quick slice that'll go all the way through the whole model, and we'll put that about there. There we go, and that's put me a nice cut all the way around. And what I'll possibly do as well is, now the problem is I can go through the same rigmarole again of doing a cut here and a cut there and a cut there. Or we can boolean this bit out later, and I think what I might do is I might come back to this and I might do a boolean later on. So far so good. Everything's going fairly well. I think to make life a little bit more interesting, I'm going to grab this polygon on the top and I'm just going to scale it in slightly. So that's going to help me, that's good. I'm going to select this edge. Let's do a loop. Oh, bless. That's better. And I'm going to see how far I can get with doing a chamfer. Oh. Actually, that's quite a pleasant surprise. I'm quite impressed with that, so that's good. We'll OK that. Keeping my finger on the shift key. Oh, that was recording. Oh, brilliant. Time to edit that. Keeping my finger on the Shift key, I'm going to go to Polygon. No, come on, Shift key. Edge. Select edges, Shift key, Polygon. That's wonderful. Things never actually work the way you'd like them to. That should have actually selected all of those, but never mind. What we're then going to do is just a very quick extrude, which will be by local normal, and will obviously be of a negative value, so it comes in. And you want to make that a reasonable amount, because what we're doing here is we're creating detail that will create shadow. And obviously the more shadows that you create, the more detailed your work will look. Subsequently, the better it will look. So again, we'll come here, we'll do our chamfer on that. No, not on that edge, but I want it on all of the edges, of course. So just check and make sure that's looped. Yes, it has, that's good. So we'll chamfer again, maybe make that slightly less. Click OK. There we go. This time it's actually worked, or deigned to work for me at the very least. So that's our extra bit of detail, so that's good. F9's not working as a pause. Okay. Got some editing to do here. So now what I'm going to create is this little bit of section here. And that's not necessarily where the shells are going to eject from the magazine. I would imagine that on the other side of this model, there's a great big chamber that will allow you to eject the rather sizable shells that this magazine looks like it holds. And we'll worry about building that later on. For the moment, what I'm going to do is start with a rectangle and just build that rectangle in here. There we go. Right click on that and convert it to an editable spline. And I think for the moment we'll make all these points corners. And there we go. And all I'm doing is just filleting these off and making it look a little bit more interesting. Putting an extrude in, perhaps I'll make that extrude a little bit less vicious. Now we could say that we could either sort of make it the same level as our indentation here. I think actually I will do.